somebody constantly telling me all these things. Well, you're a sinner, you're a dying, go to hell, you're doing all this stuff, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. I don't like that crap. I would rather be a teacher. I'd rather give you the tools, let you make a decision, and then if you choose to be stupid, then guess what? It's your choice. It ain't my choice. But as for me and my house, what the Bible said, I choose to serve God. And it's just like I said on the hat deal. I believe that one of the things is about the men, they believe that the hat was a covering for the head. And they believe that when you had a covering for your head, it blocked wisdom. It blocked understanding. I tend to like that. But as well, if we go to old churches, we find out you walk into there, because you walk into a house, what did it always say to do? Take your hat off. It's a sign of respect. So, now let's talk about 46:10. The word steal is the word Raphaha. That's the word steal. It means not to be at peace. It does not, it's one of the interpretations of it. But to understand this thing, to be at peace is the end result. It's not how you got there. Does that make sense? How you got there produces to be at peace. But the problem is that we want to skip. It's like being financially secure. How do you become financially secure? You got to work for it. But if you keep working, but yet you're not saving money?
You got to plan for it.
Not only do you have to plan, but you have to. Bottom line is in becoming financially secure, no matter what, it is to do what? Save money. Understand your budget. The thing is that if you're living beyond your means, and if you're spending every dime you have, and you created all this debt, you're not accumulating any kind of reserve, are you? So the thing is that it takes, if you want to be financially secure, you have to make a good decision. And bottom line, if anybody, your dad always told you, AJ told me the same story. He said, save money, save money, save money.
How much did he tell you to save?
He never
I'm
talked,
just curious.
He never talked, your dad didn't really talk to me like that.
No, he just told me this. It's just for anybody. He said, son, if you just save 10% of what you make every 2 weeks, every week, 10%. Now he put this on. He said, son, I'm going to tell you right now, if you can't live off that 90%, and you can't give that 10% either to the God or use that for saving or something like that. He told me I was a kid. He says that 90% you can't live off, guess what? That other 10% is not going to help you.
Right.
And that's what he told me. I don't know if that makes any.
So, now, here we are. We've got two words to look at that we're going to look at. There is Rapha, and then there's Raphaha. Raphaha means to be still or relax. And we're going to talk about that. That is not to kick back, put your feet up on the chair. That's not what it's talking about. It means to be still. Rapha means to heal. Now you got to understand is where it all ends up at. Right now we're talking about Raphaha. Raphaha means to let go of yourself. Let go of your rigidity, your ego, your vanity, your pride. It means to hang limp, sink down, to be feeble. Already, as you would say, it is to completely surrender. The problem is, it also means to heal or to be helpful. The problem is that it represents choice. Big thing is that to let go of yourself. We're going to talk about that here in a second. When we look at the word Raphaha, it is composed of three letters. Resh, Het, and He. Three letters. The Resh, which is this first letter, it means head, chief, whore, or bow down. It looks like this. What it is a person who is surrendering. It is a person who is bowing down. It is a person who has surrendered being the boss. It is a person who has surrendered being the chief. It is a person who has surrendered being in charge. The image is of a man. A man walks through the house. What does he do? By God, I'm in charge. I am the head of all this. First thing is, when the man says that he is the head of the household, do you realize what he just did? He put himself over God. The man who screams and has to walk around and front his masculinity and front all being in charge, he is opposite to relax, to rafaha. Because the thing is that the man who will not bow down to God. It's interesting if you look, which way is it bowed down? To the left. To the left. The left represents intellect, the mind. It represents your thoughts. It represents how you act upon what you think. To right, the right side of the brain is the imaginative side. It's the side that can interpret symbols and hidden meanings. But this is bowing down your intellect. In other words, Dory, what you think in your mind you should be, you're bowing it down. You're saying, okay, God, this is yours. Again, it goes back to this picture of this man who is poor. He says, God, I can't do this. God, I'm not in charge. When we look at Resh, remember they have a numerical meaning as well. It's called gematria. Numbers are very important in Middle Eastern customs all around us. Numbers represent an idea. There was a line that if you had a certain amount of coin, in other words, you would say you was rich. So we want to use the word denarii right now. It actually was a smaller number. The number of Resh, or the assigned number, each of these numbers means something. The assigned number of Resh, Amber, is 200. 200 is basically the equivalent of 200 pennies, or however you want to say it. In other words, you ain't got a dollar to your name. If you had less than $200, or 200 pennies, or 200 whatever it is, but that was the dividing line that the Jewish custom had established that said you were rich or you were poor. If you had less than 200, you could collect alms. You could collect what is worse. I don't mind if you want to give it to somebody who's in need, but how many stories have you heard that they're standing on the side of the road and when they leave, they go get a nice car and drive off and leave because they've accumulated all this money? They don't have a right to be poor. In other words, they don't have no right to collect. But the Jews, they said, if you don't have this money, you have now the right to collect mercy. Resh means you are at the dividing line. You're coming and you're facing a problem. Resh represents an action. It's the first thing that you do if you want to heal from this. So in other words, David, you are stressed out. You're about ready to blow your top. You're going to have to make a decision. Do you blow your top? And we're going to talk about how, because the next thing is that you're going to make a decision before you blow your top. You make that decision. You have a choice to say it or don't. The Resh is the start of this word. And Resh is the first thing you encounter when you are in a difficult situation, Emily. It is that dividing line. The very next thing you do from this bad situation, you come in, the grandkids are done something stupid, your daughter, your son, banks, whatever, your next response out of your pet, which represents mouth, is determined by your choice. If you are faced with a difficult situation, Lance, and you're put in a corner, you're getting ready to make a choice. You're getting ready to make a choice. Do you say this or do you say this? If you say this, understand what you've just done. You've taken Resh and now you've created a dividing line. Resh represents the dividing line. You are getting ready to make a choice. You're going down one of two roads. Your choice. You can either let go and let God, because the first sign of letting go and letting God in Resh is path. It's your mouth. Dory, you can't be screaming and hollering at somebody and say, I've let go and I've surrendered it to God. You can't do that. Because when you're screaming and hollering at somebody, guess what you just said? I am still in charge.
That's right.
When I used to work for a living, one of the things that I always knew that would always upset me, and I would know what kind of customer it was. And whenever I would have a customer that would introduce themselves like this, David, you know what I would do? I'd pass this customer on. Because I knew that that customer was always considering himself the pinnacle, the in charge. I am the important one in this conversation. I had a situation where I ordered a pressure washer. Lance was supposed to be in a week ago. Guess what? 2 weeks and they still ain't called me. Over 2 weeks and they still ain't called me. Guess what Monty wants to do? Monty wants to call and chew somebody out. Why does Monty want to call and chew somebody out? Because I want to show them that they should have taken care of me. They should have handled this thing. I wanted to show to them what? I was important. What I wanted was more important. So I'm sitting there, and she says, I'll tell you what I'll do. She says, I'll call you back, let me find out an answer. Okay. So I leave the phone sitting there. 30 minutes, Dory. I'm thinking, man, what's taking you so long? All you had to do is walk to the back of the store. She's a store manager. Walk to the back of the store, check the thing, come and tell me. About an hour later, she calls me back. She said, yes, sir. No, she didn't say yes. She says, yours just came in today, and it's ready for you to come pick up. And I'm thinking to myself, I bet it just came in today.
No, it's been sitting there.
Y'all have forgotten. And so, guess what Monty wants to do? Guess what Monty wants to do?
Get money off.
I want to strike out. Get money. I want to get some kind of compensation for this. I deserve it. Whenever I would have a customer, but something told me, let go. Let it go. Let it go.
There you go.
Don't be this way. So we went to go pick it up, and I watched. And number one, if you've worked in retail or been around retail lately, you know the quality of employees that you have to get nowadays. AJ deserves every prayer that we can ever give him, because AJ is doing the job that I would classify right next door to never. He said, Monty, I can you work with me? I said, no, you can't. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But, as I was saying, these customers, and I would have them especially when I was working at Landers in Benton, because in Landers in Benton, it was close to Hot Springs Village. If you've ever, anybody ever dealt with people from the village?
That's big.
And you know what the people from the village, they represented a certain class of people. And these classes of people, you know what they would always and how they would always introduce themselves. And as soon as this person would introduce themselves in this manner, I would find a way to get rid of that customer. You're absolutely right.
I know them people.
I am Mr. This. Yes, this is Mr. So-and-so.
Like that name is very.
Yes. And I'm sitting there going, okay, glad to hear this. Pam. I wouldn't deal with it. Because I knew at that moment they were self-important. They were self-aware. They were the ones that were in charge, that had to be,
Address accordingly.
yes.
They-
And I was like, okay. Resh means to get rid of your titles. You've cast it down, you've become poor. You identify as poor. It's a dividing line. Pet means mouth or speech. Speech is a gift of God. It's what separates us from animals. It also represents our spirituality. The very words that come out of our mouth. It says, choose you this day, life or death. Out of your mouth brings forth life or death. Blessings or curses. How you speak. If you're speaking, I was in the store the other day, and I'm old school, and I get it, but I'm telling you, old school is right. Old school is right. There was a girl about Bailey's age.